Victorians, as you know, have thrown off the shackles of all their pandemic lockdown rules and they're enjoying freedom again. Let's cross to Melbourne now and catch up with the Shadow Police Minister there, David Southwick. David, we've spoken to you a number of times throughout the year. Tell us, first up, we'll get to some of the problems still confronting the state, but first up, when you were first allowed to leave home for reasons other than the four prescribed reasons, what did you do? What was it you needed to do most? Go to the pub, go to the beach? What was it?
Yeah. Look, visit one of my local cafes and have a meal with the family. That was certainly something that we just completely had forgotten what it was like to do. It was so tough, Chris, for everybody in terms of lockdown. 111 days that we all experienced. We're even only now starting to take the masks off. This week in Parliament is the first week that we're actually walking around and being able to attend a chamber not wearing a mask. So certainly things are feeling better. But I've got to say, the city is still empty. People haven't returned to work and a lot of businesses are still really struggling. And we're told that a lot of people won't return to their offices until the new year.
Yeah, a lot of businesses are being very, very strict on that, and the new year is certainly being identified. Just tell us, before I get on to a couple of other issues, about the police, because we've talked about some of the over-policing in Victoria during the year. It's happened in other states as well. Do you see any evidence that there's a residual resentment between the population and the police, given the way people were arrested in their bedroom for posting on Facebook, warned away from parks, arrested and fined for being at the beach?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I have raised that with the Police Commissioner and with the Minister countless times. We need a reset in terms of particularly around community policing and bringing back that cooperative nature in dealing with the community at very much the frontline level. And the frontline were put, as we've spoken about in the past, to literally clean up Daniel Andrews' mess. And I really feel sorry for many of those frontline police officers that were forced into a situation that they didn't want to do. And the anomalies, like we had of the $20 million worth of fines, only 4% of those have been collected. There was so much confusion. People were fined for countless different trivial things. And there's going to be a lot of work that will need to be done to restore confidence back in Victoria Police going forward. And it is very important because crime is up and community safety needs to be a real priority here in Victoria.
Now, you mentioned Parliament. Parliament is looking at rules for hotel quarantine, which, of course, has only just started again in Victoria this week. You need to charge people for hotel quarantine, which is what's happening in other states now. Initially, it was picked up by taxpayers. But as I understand it, they're going to charge people who are already in. It's going to be retrospective.
Chris, this is a debacle. So I was given a brief on the new hotel quarantine Mark II program on Friday. I asked a question to the new hotel quarantine commissioner about how we would be charging and what we would be charging return travellers, to which I was told, in line with other jurisdictions. I said, what jurisdiction? I was told they'd get back to us. 4 hours later, I was told we need to rush a bill into Parliament this week so we can charge travellers. We're now told that it will be retrospective. So people that have been returning in the last 3 days, and until such time as we get the regulations in place, which we're told won't be until after Christmas, will be charged. And that again could be $16 million worth of charges without the ability and the details and the legislation. So it's been so confusing.
Retrospectivity is never a good thing. And now mask rules are being lightened and they're going to focus on public transport and indoor places. That's sensible, although I would question the mandatory nature of a lot of this. But people can be fined. They're going to be fined in Victoria if they're not carrying a mask in their pocket. Isn't that over the top? If you're going for a walk into the park, you're not going to need one.
As I said to you, Chris, we've been the biggest state in Australia in terms of the most amount of fines, yet a huge amount of them haven't been enforced. I've spoken to many Victoria police officers and a lot of them will be appealed. As I said, 4% have only been paid of the $20 million worth of fines. So it's one thing to be able to be heavy-handed like the Premier has been, but in terms of enforceability with a lot of these laws, there's another thing as well. And again, that really concerns me in terms of the enforceability of those that will be left with an invoice months after they actually quarantine in a hotel. So we've got people turning up today and invoiced in the new year after experiencing Christmas and whatever else, and we expect those people to pay. I think what will happen, like all of these things, the taxpayers will be left to pick up the bill like they do because the government has been lacking in detail. And on hotel quarantine, we've had 3 days of a reset and we've got 3 strikes already on the government. The confusion about the ADF and the ADF support, we're told today that we've got one of the hot hotels are in a problem because we don't have ventilation for the hotels. We are in a mess.
We'll get onto those. Thanks very much for joining us again, David. I appreciate it.
Good on you, Chris.